when you hear that death rattle. It's not just a fight or a battle. Prepare for lots of blood and gore. It's Spintown with some more bad wars.
Have you ever been told by Hypixel staff to report bugs when you see them in game? Well, I've seen it a lot over the years. Unfortunately, there are certain things that even when you report them, Hypixel won't do anything about. I mean, bugs sometimes get fixed, but most of the time you get an automated response and nothing happens. So you end up seeing the same bug repeatedly and report it multiple times. Hypixel staff could just give you a human response or keep the community updated in the forums about their plans for bug fixes, but instead we're left in the dark, forced to do reports for the same thing over and over, hoping something might actually happen the next time. Today's video isn't really about bug reports. It's about another type of report that Hypixel ignores even more than those. Teaming reports. It's well known in the Bed Wars community that teaming reports never really get a response. This past week, Castles was the active dream mode available for players. Castles is by far the Bed Wars game mode that has the biggest problem with teaming and griefing, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to shine a light on the issue and collect some pretty solid evidence showing just how dogshit Hypixel's moderation is on this issue. My plans were to play 10 games of Castles on 3 different days, then go back and look through the replays to see how many people I could find team griefing their own team's defense. I decided to look for only people griefing defenses because that's the most common type of teaming that happens in Castles, and it would be too time consuming to try to watch every player for the entire game looking for team killing or other forms of teaming. That being said, if I happen to notice other forms of teaming, I would record it in my results. People should keep in mind that whatever I found during this deep dive, in reality, the problem is even worse. Also, I ended up doing an impromptu 4th session, so in total there were 40 games included in this study that took place over the course of 4 days. If anyone is interested, I posted all the video evidence from the replays over on my second channel and even broke down the data I found for each individual day. So if anyone wants to say these are made up numbers, they can go see for themselves. I'll include a playlist of all the evidence in the description below. Here are the final stats from all 40 games. As you can see here, I found teaming in 27 of the 40 games I played. That's over 67% of the games. 59 different times I ran into someone teaming, and in total there were 43 different individuals caught. Those numbers are different because I caught some people teaming in multiple games. It's wild to me though that I found more people teaming than I had total games played. During this process, I reported most of the players I found cheating. It's possible I forgot to report a few here and there simply because this was a very time-consuming project and I was mostly focused on gathering the evidence. Either way, a lot of reports were made. Despite all the reports, I got 0 notifications from Hypixel that any punishments were given. What makes this even more nuts is that doing this study showed that multiple accounts did nothing but team grief from start to finish in every single game they played, and some were playing every day. It's safe to say I wasn't the only person reporting them as well. You would see other people complaining in game about griefers and telling people to report them. I also know a friend of mine is working on a video about this topic, and he was reporting a lot of people this week as he did his own research. Now, I mentioned I was specifically looking for people griefing defenses for this study. Does that mean each person I found was constantly griefing from start to finish? No, although I was surprised at how many people did just that. Some of the people decided to grief only for a few minutes and then went about their business. Aside from the ones that did it the entire game, the most common type of griefing was late game. After getting all the beds on the other team's side, sometimes players would start destroying their own defenses despite their teammates' best efforts to stop them. Maybe these players just assumed the game was pretty much over, so they were having a little fun. It could also be that they have friends on the other team they're trying to help, or just want to see one of those epic 1v40 clutches. Doesn't really matter the reason, it's still team griefing. Matter of fact, in one of the late game examples I found in which people started griefing their own defense when all the beds were gone on the other team did end up clutching in a 1v39 clutch. Despite there being a bug abused in the process of getting that win, it did show that even late game griefing could cost your team a win. So whether it's late game or not, it's still a scummy thing to do and wastes the efforts a lot of people put into making a defense and defending it. For those of you wondering who was doing all the griefing, well, here's a list of all the people I caught. The number next to their name shows how many games I caught them griefing in. Some players are nicked and I couldn't tell their real names, but most aren't. If any of these players want to claim they shouldn't be on the list, well, I'll refer you to the playlist of replay evidence I already mentioned. I said that some players grief from start to finish every game, but what's also interesting is that some of them even seem to make parties just to grief. I saw these 3 players in multiple games griefing together. I wasn't really tracking or looking for that sort of thing, but without question, I noticed it a few times. I also noticed that high stars who should certainly know better would also team grief because they have zero fear of Hypixel doing anything. Chunky is more than 700 stars, and not only did I catch him griefing once in this study, but I recognized his name from past games I've played as being a team griefer. And if you look up the stats for a lot of people, it's very obvious they spent time team griefing. Chunky, for instance, has played over 700 games of Castles and only had 12 final kills in all that time, and their win-loss ratio is at 0.5. Those stats alone should be a major red flag for staff. Even if you're a full-time defender who's not very good, 12 finals in 700 games is hard to do. That win-loss ratio is also just insane. It's pretty hard for any one player to get a win-loss ratio too far away from 1 in Castles. In an 80-player game, one person usually doesn't make that big of an impact in the game. To have a win-loss ratio that low means you're probably playing against your team on the regular. A number of these full-time griefers have similar stat lines that indicate something might be up with them. Another player worth pointing out is Train. He's not really a very high star player, but he is a Castles main who's known in the game. Certainly someone who should know better than to team grief. To be fair, I've seen him in game a lot and he normally plays to win. But because there's no real fear of being punished, I did catch him team griefing a defense late in game and even sharing resources with an opponent who was a known griefer in another game. These 2 examples go to show it's not just noobs and alt accounts doing this stuff. I have strong suspicions that some Castle mains work with other players to boost. That's very hard to prove and would take a lot more research on my end, so I won't name players at this point. Now, this video isn't supposed to be about any one player, but I do think it's time to introduce one of the game's most well-known team griefers, Arkham Knight. Sporting an insane 0.37 win-loss ratio and only 5 final kills, he's been a thorn in the side to all his teammates for the past couple years. He's recognized in-game as being a griefer on the regular, and he even brags about doing it for 2 years and not getting banned. When Castles is in the rotation, he's pretty much online every day for pretty long stretches of time, and he does nothing but destroy defenses and team kill. I personally witnessed him final more people on his own team than he has final kills on the other. I've reported him dozens of times, and I know a number of others have as well, so how is it that someone who so blatantly and consistently breaks the rules never gets punished despite being reported over and over? It would be easy to say, Hypixel staff sucks balls and leave it at that. That's not the biggest problem with Hypixel moderation in my eyes, though. The biggest problem is the fact that Hypixel tried to streamline and automate moderation as much as possible. Every server needs an anti-cheat, and people may have issues with Hypixels, it's still better than nothing. What makes Hypixel different than most servers is Atlas. I think Atlas could be a great tool for Hypixel, but at the same time it can't replace having staff that are on the server playing and observing games strategically. If there was a single staff member on the Hypixel team that just observed Castles from time to time, it wouldn't be possible for an example like Arkham Knight to even happen. Instead, what staff they do have probably focus on Atlas reports and looking at the ones the players themselves have already reviewed. I mean, I'm speculating here because I don't know anyone on the staff team and they aren't exactly open with the behind-the-scenes stuff, but it's obvious they don't observe and play the most popular PvP game on the server. That's not even really up for debate. If they want to claim they are watching and playing, then their staff is just completely incompetent. Look at it this way. One cheater in a game of solo Bed Wars will potentially ruin the game for 7 other people. One cheater in a game of doubles Bed Wars will potentially ruin the game for 15 other people. With 3s, it's 11 people, and with 4s, it's 15. With Castles, one cheater can potentially ruin the game for 79 other people. Technically, it could be more since in Castles people can leave and join mid-game up to a point. So, wouldn't it be common sense to have staff focus on Castles once every 7 weeks when it's in rotation? That's what I mean by observing games strategically. Not only does cheating affect more players in Castles, but it's also one of the most popular dream modes, if not the most popular. Yet Hypixel staff simply does not do this. For the life of me, I don't understand why there aren't at least a couple volunteer staff members dedicated for each game mode. These staff members should be an active part of the community and actively play the game. It wouldn't be that hard to find 1 or 2 players in the community to be Bed Wars moderators. This catches at least some of what Atlas and Watchdog consistently miss. There are certainly improvements that could also be made to Atlas to help in moderation. For example, being able to timestamp reports so people watching the replays will know exactly where to look for someone hacking or teaming. Sometimes people will toggle on and off their hacks or will not be teaming for most of the game. If a game is 50 minutes long, it's easy for someone reviewing to miss the actual thing they were meant to see. It would also be helpful to have a chat replay combined with the actual game replay. They can still hide the names of the players, but often people will admit in chat to teaming. Or you'll have multiple people complaining about a hacker at the same time in the game. It's just something else that would make it more obvious where people should look. It could also be helpful to have more options for the type of infraction you're reporting people for. I won't go too deep into how Atlas should be improved because in the end, you would still need people proactively playing and observing games to get things Atlas will miss. To conclude this video, I'd just like to say that it's clear Hypixel's moderation is absolute garbage when it comes to handling teaming and griefing in Bed Wars. Castle's moderation is especially bad, and this very simple study proves it. The goal of this wasn't to get very obvious cheaters like Arkham Knight or Chunky banned. However, there is no real excuse for not doing that for at least 8 weeks. The goal of this was to point out and prove Hypixel has a hole in their moderation strategy. Hopefully this could spark them to make changes to fill that hole, because there's not much more infuriating as a player to be repeatedly told to report cheaters than to have staff do absolutely nothing when you do just that over and over again. So please, share this video in the forum if you don't mind being forum banned for a week. Trust me, it's not all that bad being banned from the forum for a bit. At the very least, share this on social media with hashtag Hypixel and tag any staff member you know. As a player, if you ever want the game to improve, you have to speak up once in a while. And you don't have to be the harsh jackass that I can be sometimes, but you do need to get their attention. So I'd appreciate any help you can give me in doing so. That's it for today's video. Spin out.